Good afternoon and welcome to All Things Sky Blue game preview against Birmingham City. Hope everybody's well. So just before I bring my guests in, just remember where you can find us. Facebook, X or Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. We're also on Spotify, Amazon and wherever else you get your podcasts from. If you watch us on YouTube, please go and like and subscribe. If you listen to us on podcasts, please go and rate us 5 stars. We're partnered with the Anecdote Sports Bar at the CBS Arena, and we're also sponsored by Wright Steel Fabrications. He can do your steel fabrication work up and down the country, but mainly in the West Midlands and Coventry area. So, as always, Mark is joining. How are you, Mark?
Yeah, good, thanks. Shirt yourself?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you. And our Birmingham guest is Gabe Sutton. Good evening, Gabe. You okay?
Hi, folks. Yeah, good to be on the podcast. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Good. Excellent. So, before we get into the game preview, Gabe, just let us know what you do and where we can find you.
Yeah, I sort of provide EFL content. I sort of tweet conversation starters that can be applicable to all your teams. You'll see what I mean if you go to my account, which is at Gab Sutton. I also have a show called EFL Debate, which normally is Championship and League One on Wednesdays and League Two on Thursdays. So you can give me a follow at Gab Sutton, as you can see there, and for the hashtag EFL Debate.
Yeah, obviously I've been on the debate as well, which is a really, really good show. Really enjoyed my time on there as well. So straight into it then. The last game, Rooney was in charge when we were back at the CBS Arena in the 2-0 win for Coventry City.
Callum O'Hare masterclass, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, I looked at the stats yesterday, actually, and it kind of seems that the game was quite close, but I don't remember it being that close.
No chance.
We
were trying to play a pressing game with Lucas Jukovic up top.
That's right. Well, I was just about to say to you, obviously you weren't on the best of runs at the time anyway. So how was it going into that game? How was you feeling?
Well, to be honest, I think it's probably important to say that although I'm a Blue Nose, our first season ticket was 03-04 when we finished 10th in the Premier League. And I'm probably not a fan in the same way as people who kind of go week in, week out. So I still really feel passionate about the club. But the sort of the sense of knowing everything, all the details from week to week is probably not the same for me as it might be for someone who goes home and away. So I suppose that would be the first thing. But I think just in sort of broad sense, we at the moment, I think we just look like a team that's had 6 different managers in the dugout this season, which is quite a lot, isn't it? So we've... I think at the time the Wayne Rooney appointment didn't work. I think the main reason, as much as Rooney didn't get much right himself, but the main thing was I think there was just that feeling of the timing of it was just very destabilising from the appointment of John Eustace, and I think that was a real problem for Rooney to overcome. We've not quite been able to pull away since then.
Yeah, look, as you just mentioned, it was the Callum O'Hare masterclass, if you like. The midfielders were very much on the up, really. It wasn't just Callum O'Hare at the time. All the midfielders were chipping in with goals because at the time the strikers weren't. Mark, how was you feeling coming into that game against Birmingham at the CBS Arena?
I think that was the game we got the 1-1 draw. It was the game before against Leeds, I think, when we got a really good draw. And I was quite optimistic about the game because our record with Birmingham in recent seasons has been pretty good. So I felt a derby game, Friday night under the lights at the time, big crowd. Obviously, Birmingham brought a big following. Really good atmosphere, and I felt it was a game I just felt we could win. And Callum O'Hare was back to his best, really, because that was around the time when he just come back from injury a lot, came on off the subs bench a lot, and probably produced his best performance of the season back then. So I thought Birmingham were disappointing, as Gavin mentioned, and I felt it was a pretty comfortable win. I think this time around it will be a harder game for us. Maybe home records in recent hasn't been good. One thing we haven't achieved, but they've been tested. So that's one thing to happen at home, which we can't, which we can never do. But in terms of the game itself, it will be a tougher game because Birmingham, bad defeat last night. It's Cardiff, as I'm sure we'll talk about in a minute. And they need a result. They need points. Obviously, we need points ourselves because if we don't, we either draw or lose this game. That's our season done and dusted. So
I knew you were going to say that, Mark. I knew you were going to say that. I still don't look. I think if we lose, I think it makes things a lot more difficult. If we draw, I feel that it's not the end of the world.
So I disagree because I look at who we've got after that. You've got Hull City, Ipswich Town at home, and that means you've got to win. In my opinion, we need 15 points from the 5 games. That gets us 78 points at the end of the season. I think if you get 78 points, more times than not, you should be in the playoffs.
Yeah.
If you miss out, it's unlikely. But you look at the top 3 sides of the championship. All got 88, pushing 90 points. And one of those teams is going to be very unfortunate to miss out, really, because usually that number of points would get you automatics. So it's been a freak season from that point of view. If you look at the season as a whole, it's been a real freak season. But in terms of our game, both teams need to win for their own reasons. From our point of view, slight disappointing result against Southampton. It was a disappointing result against Southampton. I think we can win this game. I think the only changes I could see from Southampton is maybe Van Ivac won't be fit for this one. From that point of view.
Yeah.
So I don't know about Haji Wright's fitness. There's been a kind of talk about his hamstrings being a bit tight and Palmer and that. So it's look. I think it's a derby, but Birmingham poor form, and we've got to try to take advantage of that. Really, we can't. We've got to turn up. Because Southampton game in the first half we were poor. Although admittedly one of their goals was a handball, but it still doesn't excuse the performance.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. Obviously, I was at the Southampton game, and first half, as you've just said, Mark, it was a poor first half. Not used to the levels that we're seeing, especially the game before when we beat Leeds, not comfortably in the end, but it was a really, really good game. Now we do. At the moment, we are playing a similar formation. So we're both playing a 4-2-3-1. Gabe, obviously you were at the game last night, weren't you, for Birmingham? How was that game? Where do you think the game might be won if you guys think that you're going to win it on Saturday?
Yeah, I thought the first half on Wednesday night, was okay because we probably shaded it in terms of territory. Koji Miyoshi, who looked really bright in the first half, hit the post, and so the game could have been different then. But the sort of the interesting thing for us at the moment is the problem Rooney had was he was trying to get a team playing out from the back with players that weren't necessarily comfortable doing that. The problem Gary Rowett's got, I think, at the moment is the players are actually now at a stage where they're quite comfortable playing out from the back, and that's how they seem to want to go. But I was standing in the stand, sort of where you're very close to the dugout, and you could see that Gary Rowett was getting really, quite frustrated that the players were sort of passing it around like that. So It just kind of summarizes that, when the players want to do one thing, the manager wants to do the other. That seems to be the way for us this season. I think Koji Miyoshi is going to be a dangerous player for you to look out for because he's very energetic. And he can just spin away from opponents very quickly. And he did combine with another South Korean lad we've got called Paik Sung-ho, who's a bit more of a controller type. So those two link up quite nicely, and I feel like that's probably our biggest source of optimism going into this game.
Yeah, obviously, we'll go through the injured players and the standout players that I think, and Miyoshi was one of them, to be fair. Bakuna's another one, and Jay Stansfield is also one as well. How have they been playing for you recently?
Yeah, well, Jay Stansfield's been our best player, and it's been handy to have someone have a bit of an outlet this season and someone who can get him behind, which we've not really had in, excuse me, in previous campaigns. So yeah, he's been really important. And I'm sorry, who were the others you mentioned?
Miyoshi and Bakuna.
Yeah, so Miyoshi's obviously going to be a threat. I think he's one of our better players. And then Bakuna, I don't know about Bakuna. I think he's sort of someone who blows hot and cold. He's definitely capable of inspirational, magical moments, but he can also really drift out of games. And it always feels to me like he's trying to play the game on his own. Whereas I look at other players like Park Sung-ho and Koji Miyoshi, and it feels like they are looking to combine with their opponents and make something work. So, but yeah, those two down the right-hand side, possibly linking up with Ethan Laird, getting forward, that's probably our biggest reach to the threat, and hopefully we can release Stansfield as well.
Yeah, because I do look at your side, to be fair, and it's quite a good. It is a good side.
You'd think so on paper, wouldn't you?
Yeah, definitely. But obviously, your home form. I forgot to write it down, to be fair. But how many have you won at home in between the past two games? Can you remember?
In terms of the past two home games, so under Gary Rout, we beat Preston at home 2-1, and then we lost to Cardiff last night.
Right, okay. You've lost 5 as well from the last time that we played you at home. Right. You've only drew 2 by the stats that I were looking at. So it's, it's you either win or lose, don't you? I think it's fair to say it's very rare that you get a draw, and that's pretty much what we've been like away from home. So I don't think it's going to be as clear cut as we might think it may be. Mark, where do you think the game's going to be won for us?
Midfield's an important area, I think. I think, I did see a bit of the game against Cardiff last night, and I thought Miyoshi was probably Birmingham's best player. I thought he looked
definitely
skillful, tricky, almost like a Sakamoto. He's almost like their version of Sakamoto, but he's got that sort of similar traits, quite small, tricky, skillful, pacey. So I think we've got to be on our guard against him.
Do you know what? I thought Rout made a bit of a mistake taking him off rather than Bakuna in the second half, because Miyoshi in the first half was probably the one player who looked like he might create something.
Yeah. I thought from what I saw the game though, from Birmingham's point of view, I thought they acquitted themselves quite well. I thought Cardiff, to be fair, are a decent side away from home. They beat us as well, and they're a bit of a funny team, Cardiff. I think recently their home record hasn't been great, but away from home they've been picking up some good results. They
were solid last night, and they were very competitive, and they were sort of incisive at key moments. So they've definitely made some progress from last season. But I think from our point of view, yes, we probably shaded the first half, and probably didn't create as many chances as we would have wanted to, but we've also had some decent moments, I would say. And then, in the second half, it felt like a bit of a drop-off. And actually, after Cardiff scored, and when we should have been really chasing the game, we lost we didn't really have the momentum. We didn't really put them under siege like I was maybe expecting we might. One of the issues we had was we had a left back called Lee Buchanan, who I think got a bit of a knock, and we put on Cody Dramé at right back, and he's at left back, but he's a right back by trade, so he's right-footed. So that's not ideal. I think that was one of the things that sort of stunted our momentum a bit, and so that didn't help. And we just didn't really finish the game with the kind of gusto that we're sort of hoping.
Yeah, obviously you mentioned Lee Buchanan there. Does he look like he's going to be out for our game, or is he going to be back?
I don't know. I didn't actually see what the injury was. Someone mentioned that he had a bit of a knock. I don't think it's going to be I don't get the impression that it's something long term. So it might be that he's back in for Saturday, but I'm not 100% sure on that.
Okay. Other players that are out, or you may be able to tell me whether they're back or not, is Lucas Jukovic, Mark Roberts, and Alfie Chang. Alex Pritchard was back on the bench, wasn't he, last night for you?
He was back on the bench, yes. Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. Are they all still out, or is anybody that's back?
I'm afraid I'm not the Blues expert I used to be. I go to a few games now, but because I'm covering other teams, I'm not quite in the loop with the absolute details as I used to be. So
no worries.
I'm not sure about those, unfortunately.
Okay, no worries. Mark, any questions?
I guess the question really is, when did the rot really set in? Was it as soon as they got rid of John Eustace and appointed Wayne Rooney? Do you think that was just a catastrophic mistake by the owners?
Yeah, I think so. I think that the issue you have is you can now see that Wagner and Brady have got this sort of plan to build a £2 to £3 billion sports arena by 2029, which is just seems like such a grandiose plan for Birmingham City, doesn't it? Really,
the Wembley of the Midlands of it.
Wembley of the Midlands, absolutely, yeah. I mean, I think we've got that right now, but yeah, I think they've got such big plans, and I think the feeling was probably that somebody like John Eustace, having done a pretty solid job last season and really good start, still didn't carry the sort of the glamour, if you like, that the owners wanted, and obviously inevitable comparisons have been made to the Zola situation a few years ago. So yeah, I think that's probably the issue, that they prioritised kind of having a big name over for someone that carried that sort of prestige over actually what the players needed at that time, what the fans wanted at that time, and that was unfortunate. And I think that's kind of bit the owners on the bum a little bit. And there's since been a series of things, some of which that haven't been in the owner's control. So obviously sacking Eustace was a big mistake, but then also they did reappoint Tony Mowbray, and that looked like that might stabilise things for us. But then obviously the health condition came to and obviously we wish Tony all the best with his recovery, and I'm sure as former Coventry manager, I'm sure you extend your best wishes as well.
Yes, most definitely.
Yeah, from a footballing perspective, that certainly disrupted things, because his assistant Mark Venus kind of took the reins, but it wasn't a really comfortable situation. So Gary Rout's come in. So it's been quite a chaotic situation, really. And hopefully we can sort of rally for the last 4 games. But as I said at the top, we look like a side that's had 6 different managers in the dugout. Yeah,
unfortunately. Anything else, Mark?
I mean, I guess from a Birmingham point of view, if the worst happens and you got relegated, do you think there'll be some sales of players, or what do you think could happen next? I suppose that's a $64,000 question a bit. But
sure. I actually think that it's always a disaster if you get relegated, because it's horrible for fans and it's not a nice experience at all. I guess if we were going to get relegated from the Championship under this ownership, the blow would be a little bit less, because the investment is absolutely there. And I think you're probably more confident. While the current regime and Tom Wagner have made mistakes, I'm still a lot more confident in them than any owner we've had in my lifetime as a fan. Because we've been run so badly off the field previously. So, and I think we'd have an enormous budget for League One as well. So I sort of, I think it would sort of set us back a year, but I don't think it would be the end of the world in the way that it might have been if we'd gone down when we'd had financial issues, or when we were in a bit more hot water, perhaps. So, yeah, that's the general feeling. I think with this, the players that we've got already, I think are too good for League One. We might lose a few of those, obviously Stansfield and the like. But I don't think it would be awful short term, but I don't think it would hit us too hard in the long run if we were to go down.
Yeah. What were your expectations at the start of the season? I know it's difficult now, because obviously your expectations are to hopefully stay up.
Sure.
But have they changed? But did you expect to be sort of around the top 6 when Eustace was in charge, or was you expecting a mid-table? what are your expectations to then and what are they now?
So the expectation before the season was a little bit of progress from last season's 17th place finish, because there was, there was quite a big recruitment drive in the summer, and we'd made some on paper really good additions. And again, I still think that the squad we've got on paper should be a lot better than 23rd. I think we've definitely stayed up with weaker squads than we've got now. So yeah, I think the aim before the season was hopefully to try and get a top half finish and continue to develop a few players and get ourselves a bit of stability.
Yeah.
Which it's quite ironic with all the managerial turbulence.
Yeah. So threats from us. I know, obviously, when I've been on your show before, you've mentioned the likes of Sakamoto, Haji Wright, and other people like that.
Sure.
Is there anybody else that's come to the fore recently that you've noticed?
Ellis Sims, in terms of the last couple of months, he seems to have. I don't know whether it was the Stoke game where I think he won 1-0 and he scored, and then since then he seems to have really found his mojo a bit. So Ellis Sims worries me. Haji Wright, I think you were saying, Mark, you're not sure if he's going to be fit for Saturday.
There's a few talks about him with tight hamstring, but that might just be paper talk. Who knows? I'm hoping he'll be fit, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not, because I'm still not. I feel like he's found some really good form for you all of this season, but I've also watched him sometimes and felt like his end product, he can sky one sometimes from a really good shooting position as well. Yeah, but I mean, I think obviously his form this season would suggest that he would carry a threat as well. I tell you what, I do like some of your midfielders like Josh Eccles, Ben Sheaf. I think Victor Katorp's really a nice, tidy operator as well.
Yeah, obviously, Sims probably started his scoring streak, if I remember rightly. Mark might be able to, with his stats on his paper that he's got, he might be able to tell me a little bit differently. But I think it was the cup when he scored a hat trick, and then he scored 2 hat tricks within about 3 games, and he hasn't really looked back since, has he, Mark? He's been scoring, pretty much every game, hasn't he?
It's just amazing what confidence can do. It's like generally anything in life. If you do something well, you just get a bit buoyant about it, and then you just can do things like it's just really, it makes it really, really easy. And I think that's what Ellis Sims has done. He's not just scoring tap-ins or anything like that. He's scoring some really good goals. You look at the goal against Huddersfield. The first goal, he hits it top corner, past the keeper, and that for me was a Premier League finish. And he's got that in his locker. He's got the ability to score goals that maybe some strikers wouldn't be able to do. And he's got a lot of talent. And it was a slow start to the season. I was critical of him because I felt that he just lacked confidence for me. And that was his biggest problem. But now he's and Gabe's right. I think the goal at Stoke was a really good finish. And again, that wasn't a straightforward goal. That was a top finish, and he made it look easy. And then he got the hat trick against Maidstone, and then after that, he hasn't looked back since then. So I'm expecting a big performance from him. He's a bit of a goal drought because he hasn't scored last game, so he needs a bit. He's due a goal, but no, he's been fantastic. Possibly. One of the players of our season, I'd say Jake Bidwell is my player of the season, but he's not. He's up there as well.
Mark, why would you have Jake Bidwell as player of the season?
Because I think it gives you solidity at the back. He's good going forward. He's provided assists. He scored a goal yesterday. He's just reliable. He's just throughout the season. I'm not talking about last 5-10 games. I'm talking about the 42, 41, 42 games I've seen of this season.
Yeah,
it's just consistent. He's reliable. I thought he was unlucky to be left out at the start of the season when he went with De Silva. De Silva for me, I think, although he came on a free up, he's probably been our worst signing in my opinion. He hasn't really. He showed glimpses of what he can do, but I just think defensively he looks very suspect. Whereas Bidwell, he's just solid. And it's the things you don't notice, like the Leeds game, for example. Somerville has a shot, it's going in the top corner, and he heads it off the line. It's moments like that. It's as good as scoring a goal.
Yeah.
And defensively, his been, his defending's been worth its weight in gold. It's got us points that we may not have got. So, I mean, everyone's got an entitled opinion. You can make a case for a lot of our players. I think Haji Wright has done well, although I agree with what you say, Gabe. I think there's been games I feel he's been a bit frustrating. What frustrates me about him, he gets caught offside so many blooming times. It tears my blooming hair out. You can see I'm losing my hair just probably talking about it. Sims has been on fire. Sheaf has been fantastic this season. Kitchen, Thomas have been good. Keepers, Collins has been good. So you can make a case. I think there's been a lot of, generally speaking, it's been a good season for us. Although we may end up missing out on playoffs, I'm not that concerned because I think we've got players that are signed on fairly lengthy contracts, and we've got a solid base to work on.
That's a really interesting point, actually, Mark, just to pick up on that, because last season you did get into the playoff, where you got to the playoff final, but I think you had something like 5 or 6 loan players last season, and it meant that you needed quite a big rebuild in the summer, especially with the loss of Hamer and Gyökeres. Whereas this summer, I don't think the rebuild's going to need to be as big. I think it's going to be more about adding 2 or 3 players of quality if you can find them. So that's a nice position to be in.
Yeah, we've go on, Mark. Sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say, Mark Robin made it clear he didn't want a lot of loan players. We only got one player, which is Binks, and that's it. Yeah. So it's great really, because now in the summer we've got Efron Mason-Clark coming in from Peterborough, who's obviously used to playing at Wembley and winning games with a big game. So that's a good experience.
Yeah, I really like Mason-Clark. I think you've got a gem there.
Yeah, obviously he was one of the ones that I was just about to say, the rebuild started in January, if you like, because we're probably going to lose Callum O'Hare anyway on a free. Yeah. For me, probably he replaces Callum O'Hare. And then
he does play Peterborough play 4-2-3-1 as well, and he plays on the left for them.
He plays on the left. I think he can play a 10. I think he's got that in his locker. Just because he might be back up, or he might be fighting for that left-sided berth with Haji Wright. But with losing O'Hare, I just think that he can float a little bit, just like Palmer can. I see him in that sort of mould. So, and we know what Robbins and AD can do with bringing players on and putting people in different positions.
Sure.
And it works.
I would just say though, Stu, is I don't see creativity being Mason-Clark's biggest strength necessarily. I see him as a little bit more of a goal scorer. So Posh have got this other winger called Kwame Poku who plays on the right, and I would say more of their play goes through him and their attacking midfielder called Joel Randall, and then a lot of the time it's Mason-Clark getting on the end of moves because he's a real physical specimen and he's got real goal scoring instincts as well. I'm not saying he's not creative, but he's not necessarily going to be a creative fulcrum in the way that Callum O'Hare can sometimes be in the final.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. No worries. Can I get a prediction out of you then, Gabe?
I'm gonna go. Oh gosh, this is a bit heart against head for me. I'm gonna go with my heart. I'm gonna say 1-0 to Blues.
Wow. Okay, interesting. Mark, can I get a prediction?
I'm going to be positive, go 3-1 Coventry, and I think O'Hare will get his sunglasses out again in a couple of seasons back, so I'm going to be 3-1 Cov.
Excellent. Well, I think we need a clean sheet, if I'm honest, and I think we might get one, so I'm going to go for a 2-0 because the past 2 games have been 2-0. So I'm going to go for a 2-0 again. Any final questions for Gabe, Mark?
No, nothing from me, no.
Okay, lovely. So, Gabe, as I get all my guests, I do a little bit of a quick fire questions at you. There's just 5 questions. If you can give me one-worded answers, then that's brilliant. But don't worry if it works into a sentence or a long statement or whatever. All right. Yeah. So the first one is player of the season so far.
Jay Stansfield.
Okay. Aston Villa.
Bastards.
I think that's the strongest word we've had on here from Gabe. Player most likely to leave in the summer?
Stansfield's gonna go. That's a good question. You've caught me off guard a bit. I don't know. I think that we've got lots of players who have kind of had very inconsistent form. Stansfield's the only one that's been consistent the whole season, I would argue, and he's only on loan.
Okay, no worries. Gary Rowett.
Legend of the club, done some wonderful things for the club. Hopefully he can be the person we need right now.
Lovely. And the last one, Dion Sanderson.
Decent.
Okay, no worries. That's it from me. Thank you very much, Gabe, for coming on. It's very much appreciated. As always, thank you very much, Mark, as well. Before we do sign off, when we finish recording, Gabe, don't shoot off. We'll have a quick chat afterwards. All right. Can you just let us know, Gabe, where we can find you one last time?
Sure. Yeah, you can drop me a follow on Twitter @GabSutton, and you can follow the hashtag EFL Debate.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. So that's the Birmingham preview wrapped up. Just remember where you can find us, guys. We are on TikTok, X, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Please go and like and subscribe. There's some good ex-player interviews on there. Just done a Misford interview, so that's on there. Really good listen. If you follow us on podcasts, please go and rate us 5 stars on there as well. We're sponsored by Right Steel Fabrications, and we're partnered with the Anecdote Sports Bar at the CBS Arena. So from me, thank you very much. Gabe, once again, thank you. And Mark, as always, thank you very much. Cheers, guys.